Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining the Economic Development Subcommittee for March 2025. We can begin with roll call real quick. Ariadna present, Megan,
Here.
Anna, Nancy here, Richard, Guillermo, and Andrew. Okay. So today's presentation is from SBS and Cooper Square Committee on commercial tenant harassment, specifically in our district, and I think SBS is speaking. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. So please if you go on
So the camera's up there, so maybe if you want to.
All right.
Actually, try using the mic with you.
Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here. My name is Daniel Morris. I'm the underdog rep with the Small Business Services, and I'm here to speak a little bit about our assistance. I was over here. I also mailed PDFs over to the community board and brought some with me as well for those who are interested and getting to know more about CLA. So a little bit about CLA. CLA has been around since 2018. We served over 25, or CLA served over 2,500 small businesses, over 6,000 legal matters. Our legal service provider is Brooklyn Services. We provide free legal assistance to New York City business owners, mostly with lease issues. The commercial assistance program can help with legal services, with signing the lease, amending, renewing, or terminating an existing commercial lease, addressing a commercial lease related issue, and harassment or a potential breach of contract. To be eligible, a small business, they need to be a small business according to the U.S. Small Business Services Administration, be able to live in New York City, not be a franchise establishment, and hold to start eligibility. On the latter part, I would highly recommend form businesses fall under the eligibility, and it's more of a competition we have with something as well. So the business that we prioritize, time restraints, business that operate under an oral or under an agreement, lease breaches of contract, and work harassment, have leases expiring in 6 months or less, or are currently in a zone area. In order to receive free services, you can feel free to call 88 SBS or NYC or 888-727-4692, or going to the website nyc.gov/COMMLEA. And before I close off, our CLA program provides up to 30 hours of free legal assistance and an advisory role. We typically do not do litigation. However, if a business is in the area where the first steps might be taken, I highly recommend shooting an email to myself, bflores@sbs.nyc.gov, or giving me a call. My cell phone number is 917-510-3070. I'll stick around for a couple of minutes if anybody has any questions, and it's a pleasure to be here at CB3.
What are the more salient points that when somebody uses the lease that you advise them generally? What is important in those leases that they have to look for?
I would say I can't give legal advice.
No, not
So,
legal advice.
yeah.
I mean,
But when it comes to a lease, very important to have a lot of things written down. There are a lot of folks that CLA sees that have more unregulated agreements. And many of those things could be out at the beginning at first, but as time progresses, there are obviously different changes. There are obviously different things that come into effect. So specifically making sure that any of those matters are written down, it's a plus, and especially for new business owners, couldn't recommend enough seeking CLA because we have attorneys that can sit down with them and kind of go through the whole process and be able to speak as to like if this benefits you versus if this does not benefit you.
Yeah, because, you know, in most leasing, it doesn't have to be legal. I mean, if they come to you and you say, what do I look for? You could say the attorney, but if I'm there long enough, I could say, look, the monthly rent is not some of the important things that you negotiate in a lease. There's most landlords will charge you for a portion of the water you use, a portion of the real estate taxes that you use, a portion of the maintenance of the sidewalks and so, I mean, you know, if they come to you, they have to at least know that even if there is no, we don't have to have the lawyer will give you the final points of dates and times and stuff like that. But simply before they even come to you, somebody have to at least give them an idea of what they're in for. A lot of people like in the Lower East Side, they open small businesses. And then they come to my office and say, hey, they're billing me for taxes. Said, did you read the lease? Even if their lawyer drew it, they probably don't. So, and so in 6 months or a month after they spend all this money renovating their storefront or their thing, you find out that they never counted for those things. And your business either was in trouble or they go to business in short time within 2 or 3 years. You know, so
And
there should be a list in your office that say this is what to look for.
yeah, I can send you more information, but also when it comes to like every lease, every area is different. And certain areas you might want to account for certain factors, but for others you might want to account for other factors as well, which is why we help offer this program so that folks can have an ability to sit down and the professional can sit down with an individual, and depending on what area their business is at, they can give certain guidance as to area A versus compared to area B.
And your services without cost, right?
For free, up to 30 hours. Yep.
How is it put out there in is there a pack beside these things, where do you advertise so that the small business people could find your services?
SPS is an outreach team.
Yeah.
We've been very active going all across the city. We actually, the commissioner of SPS was at this very community board, January 11th of 2024. And we did a community board blitz last year. We targeted the community boards of the city. We always, whenever we have other announcements or things that are going on that affect the local community board, we usually also send out blasts to the community boards and the respective members as well, and these are respective elected as well. So we always try to keep those constant streams of communication open. And we always recommend our services online. And I always try to make sure that I drop my information as well. So if anybody has any questions, the pamphlets are here, but we also gave the community board over here a couple of more information as to the services that we offer. So we always try to do our best to be out there and speak with folks one-on-one like we're doing today.
Yeah, I just asked because some people are not sitting here, they're.
I understand.
Daniel,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming. I just have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Are there requirements to qualify as a small business? Because I want to make sure that, organizations or companies that need this, that they qualify for it. Is there a list?
Yeah,
of that?
so
Thank
for
you.
CLA, my recommendation would be to look at the SBA's qualification for small business, the Federal Small Business Administration. And regardless, even if there are still like any pending questions, for the most part, just reach out to them and they'll be able to let you know, but the SBA's qualifications for what's a small business is usually pretty straightforward.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
We have a question in the chat.
Okay, we can go to the chat and then I'll ask my questions after.
Well, maybe I'll let the attendee. About.
Dee, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, I've been in contact with somebody at SBS for quite some time and just trying to get a mentor. They had connected me with someone who owns several businesses, so I never really got in contact with them. I'm assuming just because they probably have too much on their plate. So just wondering if there's another way to kind of fast track that, or is there a list somewhere of people who are open to being mentors or something like that?
We have different programs available, and I don't know who at SBS you've been in touch with, but if you need assistance, I'll give you my cell phone number, my email address, and let's try to touch base sometime this week and see what the specifics are. And see how we can assist you, so my cell phone is 917-510-3070. And my email is dflores@sbs.nyc.gov.
Let us know if you caught that, Dee. If not, we can send it in the chat as well. In case others have questions.
I'll leave my card here as well in case you guys want to send an email in the chat.
So it was 917-510-3070
Correct,
and dflores@sbs.gov.
the nyc.gov.
.nyc.gov. Okay, thank you.
Anytime.
An additional question I had is how many attorneys do you guys have staffed and how are they distributed amongst the different boroughs?
So our attorneys we have an office here in the city, if I'm not mistaken, we have another office in Brooklyn. I don't know how many attorneys specifically we have staffed with Brooklyn 8 that are able to assist, but we usually do not have a waiting time. If you want, I can get back to you with the list of addresses for our attorneys all over the city.
Okay, this is more of just like an anecdotal feedback that I want to share, but I did hear from some people when they are trying to secure a lease that at times if the attorneys are out of office, that there isn't necessarily an alternative person as a point of contact. And of course, that can pose issues where if they're trying to get a lease secured by a certain deadline or timeline, they don't necessarily have the flexibility to wait. So maybe that's something to look into, that if there's only one person staff, that there are alternatives available or in other offices that people could reach out to.
Sounds good, I'll definitely be sure to bring that up in the office.
Perfect. Does anybody else on the committee have any questions? Or on the chat? No, okay, we're good.
I just wanted.
Mhm.
Some time ago, SBS, and I know I went through that program. Where they assist you with the application and the package to get New York City contracts or contract applications. Do you still do that?
New York City contract applications?
No, the city puts out requests for proposals all the time for small business to participate in small business or minority contracts.
Oh, MWBs, yeah, so.
Yeah,
SBS, we're the agency that certifies
yeah.
MWBs. And we assist businesses that need a certification request, and our division of economic and financial opportunity is a division in charge of that. And we are still doing that to this day.
Great, thank you so much for your time this evening. We really appreciate very helpful information.
Pleasure being here, thank you so much.
And then I think next Cooper Square Committee.
Sure. I got a text from a commercial tenant who is on the Zoom that the sound is very bad. Is there anything we can do about that?
Was this in the beginning or more recent?
I think it's current.
Current.
Usually the hand mics are supposed to fix it, in terms of, yeah, like, I don't know how else to fix the audio.
Make a difference.
Yeah, make sure.
Yeah, maybe just try to
Keep it like
closer,
close
yeah.
to our
Yeah.
mouths. Okay.
Sorry about that.
So thanks so much to Daniel for that presentation on the Commercial Lease Assistance Program. Cooper Square Committee, my organization, has been a community-based partner of the Commercial Lease Assistance Program since the program was conceived in 2018, and I can personally say I've referred hundreds of businesses in the Lower East Side and East Village and Alphabet City to the program, including one earlier today. So it's definitely an important program and one that USB NYC advocated for and one that Cooper Square advocated for. So thanks Community Board 3 for having us to discuss this important topic of commercial tenant harassment. We're going to be introducing ourselves, myself from Cooper Square and my colleague Belanda from USB NYC. We're going to be talking about what the legal definition of commercial tenant harassment is. We're going to share some data and merchant stories and then describe some of the gaps in the current law and ask for your support to improve it. So just to introduce myself, for those of you who aren't already aware, Cooper Square Committee is New York City's oldest community-based anti-displacement organization. And we work with tenants, commercial as well as residential, to organize and prevent displacement so that the Lower East Side can remain the culturally, racially, and economically diverse community that it is. And my name is Abigail Elman, if I didn't already state that. I'm the Director of Planning and of Development, and I lead our commercial tenant organizing and advocacy. So on the next slide, I can share just briefly a little bit more about our small business program. So what we found over the last nearly 10 years of having this small business and commercial tenant organizing program is that the best way to reach small businesses in our neighborhood is to actually go out and meet them where they are in their storefronts. And that's where I think most of, if any of the commercial tenants that are going to be joining us today are, they're probably still at work at this time in their stores. And all of you are residents here, you know how great our commercial, how great our small business community is here and how much it does for our community. So every year we impact hundreds of commercial tenants through connecting them with services like the Commercial Lease Assistance Program and through a whole laundry list of other acronym programs such as the BEST program to help with navigating compliance with city agencies, the MEND program, which helps with disputes between landlords and commercial tenants or between neighbors and commercial tenants, business counseling, financing, loans. We really do connect with a lot of businesses every single day, every single year. So in the next slide, I'd like to introduce Belanda, who's going to share a little bit about USB NYC, the coalition that Cooper Square is a member of.
Hello, everyone. My name is Belanda Joaquin. I am the organizer of our Coalition United for Small Businesses of New York City. So this is a coalition of community organizations across New York fighting to protect small businesses and non-residential tenants from the spread of displacement, with particular focus on owner-operated, low-income, minority-run businesses that serve low-income and minority communities. So some of the orgs that are in this coalition, as Abigail stated, Cooper Square Committee, we have Peak Under Project, Redco, that's in the Bronx, Northwest Bronx Community Clergy Coalition, and Chaya in Queens. What's the next slide? So some of the work that Listening Mercy has worked on, some campaigns is the storefront vacancy registry. So as a coalition, we have some transformative wins, such as creating storefront vacancy registry. Landlords are now required to register their vacant storefronts. Prior to this law, there was no public data on commercial spaces. Next slide. Another program that we advocated for, as we talked about recently, is the Commercial Lease Assistance Program. So in 2018, we brought and established CLA So business owners in the 5 boroughs can now seek free legal services from an attorney or on commercial lease matters. The attorney usually helps with reviewing, amending and drafting and terminating lease agreements, as well as negotiating with landlords regarding issues such as repairs, responsibilities, and rent arrears. Another major win for our coalition was the commercial tenant anti-harassment law. So why did we start a commercial tenant anti-harassment campaign? Commercial tenants face the same displacement pressures as residential tenants, but the rules are different for them and they lack any kind of protections. So some of you may know that when tenants, especially with like stabilized, they have the Bill of Rights. If a landlord were to take action against them in any form of retaliation, they are protected. They can go to housing court, file pursuit, where they can be either compensated for whatever repairs that they're trying to needed or getting repairs done. With commercial tenants. With commercial tenants, that does not happen at all, right? They don't have the right to access to heat, hot water. If there's a repair that needs to be done, especially structural, with plumbing or gas, it's usually left on the tenant.
I am busy, can't answer you now.
Okay, call me back, okay?
Jeez.
Yeah, so I was saying, yeah, so if there's any like structural repairs, right, anything plumbing, gas, where the residential tenant call 311 if your landlord doesn't make any repair, you don't know, you contact your landlord, they don't do anything. You call 311 and then the city comes in and pretty much forces the landlord to make the repairs. With commercial tenants, that does not exist at all. So even with, I remember I was speaking with someone who owns a nonprofit back in the day, and they said they didn't have heat in their building when they went to the landlord, and the landlord told them, well, you're not a residential tenant. I don't have to give that to you. So just kind of thinking like the lay of the land. So in 2016, NYC, we organized to help pass the first in the country commercial tenant anti-harassment, which has established a legal definition of commercial tenant harassment and gave commercial tenants the right to sue their landlord in court. The intention of the law was to serve as a tool for non-residential tenants to fight back against harassment and displacement from landlords. With the lack of enforcement, these tenants with the burden to prove that they are being harassed and affirmatively sue their landlords in court.
So, in the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about what this law established and the legal definition of commercial tenant harassment. Probably when you hear the word tenant harassment, the image that comes to mind is an angry person coming and like yelling at a tenant in their store or exercising some kind of violence or force on them. And that is considered commercial tenant harassment. But actually, according to the statute that was established in 2016, commercial tenant harassment is any act or omission on the part of a landlord that interrupts a business or may reasonably cause the tenant to vacate. So that actually has a much larger set of activities that's included in that. If you look on the next slide, we get into some of the details of what that might include. So repeated or long-term interruptions to one or more essential services such as electricity, water, or heating, what Blonda just mentioned, not having any heat, that would be considered commercial tenant harassment. Removing personal property belonging to the tenant, commencing unnecessary construction or repairs which substantially interfere with the tenant's business, changing the locks or otherwise preventing the tenant from entering, and then yes, using force or threats. So this is all included in the statute in the New York City Administrative Code that was established in 2016. Now on the next slide, how common or how prevalent is commercial tenant harassment? So New York City does not collect or publish any official data on commercial tenant harassment. So we have to use some kind of approximations. So according to a survey that was published in the State of the Storefronts 2023 Beyond Recovery, 1 in 5 merchants said that they had experienced one or more forms of commercial tenant harassment of that list of things. So not having an essential service or their landlord doesn't make a repair, all the things I listed. And in FY 2022, the Commercial Lease Assistance Program reported that they assisted 115 businesses with harassment and breach of contract cases. And those cases constituted 13% of the overall cases that they handled that fiscal year. So maybe according to survey data, it's 1 in 5 commercial tenants. Maybe according to the city's Commercial Lease Assistance Program, it's 1 in 10 commercial tenants. To me, it could be 1 in 100. One case is too many, and certainly 1 in 5 is too many. So that's kind of the data that we have available, and I'd like to flesh that out with a little bit more information and stories from some of the merchants and small business owners in CB3, if possible. If we could take them off mute, I think a few of them are in the room right now who have experienced this firsthand, either in their current spaces or in previous spaces, and they can share a little bit more about what they experienced. That's all right with you all.
Maybe ask if they can raise the Zoom hand so there's an indication.
Sure. So if you're in the Zoom and you would like to share your experience, could you raise your Zoom hand so that there's an indicator?
I think Abby, if you'd like to begin.
Okay, hi. I was having problems, or still am having problems with one of my commercial landlords, not like the building doesn't seem to have heat like most buildings in the East Village where there's steam going through pipes. He has those old Dynavent heaters, and the one in my storefront broke, and it's not fixable anymore because they don't make the parts anymore. So I had to close a couple days around the holidays because it was 40 degrees in my store, even with space heaters. And, you know, right now I contacted Abigail. She hooked me up with a lawyer, and we've been trying to get the landlord to be cooperative, and he has not been very cooperative. Basically, the whole building is not up to Department of Building code. And so I just don't have any heat. I'm still dealing with space heaters and Con Ed bills over $1,000 a month for those space heaters.
Thank you, Abby. I guess next.
Usually that's where a proper lease comes in. Because if you accept the storefront as is, without initially making sure that the landlord guarantees that the heat that you get comes from the building, there are certain leases that states that you have to provide your heat, and of course, if the landlord tells you that you have to pay for the water and you don't, some people consider that interruption when the landlord turns off the water. So you have to make sure that those things that you need to run your business is in the business before.
Herman, let's keep comments till the end of the presentation so we can hear from everybody. That's
Yeah,
fine.
so
I was gonna also suggest, I think they're probably already working with Abigail, right?
Yeah.
In
Yeah,
this
so
case,
she-
I can speak to that the lease says that they're guaranteed heat. So it's not a lease issue, it's an enforcement and it's a landlord accountability issue.
so she has an
But-
enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we wanna hear is the problems right now, because you're following up and working with the
Yeah.
businesses, right?
Dee, go ahead.
Hi, in the past, I mean, this wasn't anything like super recent, but have had a few issues with my landlord, with my building, I guess. One of them was there was a tenant above whose pipe burst. And during a day when we were actually operating, it was like during a Saturday, the water was literally started coming down through the ceiling. So I had to kick out all my customers. It was like pouring through the ceiling. And then they took 2 days to come to the store to fix it. Which ended up being like, I had to be closed for like 3 to 4 days. Between them fixing it because whatever they were using had like a really, really strong odor. They had to like patch up the ceiling. It smelled really bad. I wrote to the building and I provided like all of this information. And they basically just told me like, too bad. Like I kind of was asking if I could get some relief just because I had to close on obviously Saturday and Sunday are my busiest days. And then another time they were doing construction on the fire escape in the front of the building, which they stated would in no way, shape or form affect me in any way because it's on the fire escape. But for like 2 days straight, they had a ladder directly in front of my door with like dripping paint. So obviously it wasn't really safe for me to be open. And even though I was here, no customers were coming in. Nobody felt comfortable to walk under a ladder, especially with like black dripping paint coming down. Again, I wrote to them, I showed them pictures and I just got nothing in return. So with these things, I kind of just, like nobody responds or says or they basically just kind of say too bad. And I don't, as like a tenant, especially a commercial tenant, it's sort of like, I guess this is just like, I have to just eat this and deal with it. But I don't know what would be my rights in those situations.
Thank you for sharing. How many more people is there with our?
We have 2 more people,
Okay,
so
perfect.
I'll go in order. So Third and Bazaar is next.
Do you wanna keep screen sharing or do you wanna close it? I don't know.
Hi there, can you hear me?
You wanna keep it on?
This is Alex Carpenter. I'm actually, I am one of the owners with
Yes.
Megan Haywood.
We can't hear you.
Okay, can
Do
you
you
hear me
mind
now?
speaking up, please? Just your voice is a little faint.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure what to do about that.
Can you turn up your volume? I think he needs to do it, not us. What?
My
If
volume
we
is
do,
up all the
then
way,
it
so I'm not
clicks
sure.
and cracks again.
Oh, I see.
That's what causes our quality problems when we turn it up.
Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, please.
Okay, so yeah, my profile says Third and Bazaar. My name is Alex Carpenter. I am one of the owners of Third and Bazaar along with Megan Haywood. And I help Megan also run East Village Vintage Collective, which she owns and has done for 10 years. That is on 12th Street. And yeah, we were just going to talk about a little bit about our issues at East Village Vintage Collective. We have a 2-floor storefront here on 12th Street between A and B. And we've had pretty consistent issues with the maintenance of the storm drain and the sewer drain. And we've had multiple floods in the basement, and we have just been hitting a brick wall with our landlord in terms of in the first instance having them have any accountability for the maintenance of the drain, and then in the second instance trying to actually just get them to agree to maintain the drain has been a real challenge. And we have, in the first flood we had was a few years ago now, and we ended up kind of just eating the cost. We wanted some help with it, but they basically said it was an act of God, and nothing, they didn't have any accountability for it, even though I think it's pretty clear in the lease that it would be their responsibility. And so, yeah, we kind of just accepted that. And then we had another flood, and we just had consistent issues with trying to get them to even answer our questions. I mean, we've had not only merchandise damaged, we've had, that parts of their building are sort of degrading at this point. The walls are kind of falling down. We've got a couple of really huge holes in the wall that we've just temporarily covered with posters. Now it's starting to smell. Every email we send them about any kind of maintenance to do with the wall or the building, it just sort of gets ignored. And so I will say they have now committed to a 6-month drain snaking of the storm drain. But even recently, we have to remind them every time to come and do it. So yeah, and you know, they've also agreed to having the super come and sweep out the back so that the debris doesn't build up too much and clog the drain. But that's been a real challenge getting that onto a consistent schedule. So yeah, we did have some help through BK Legal. We had a free lawyer, and we that's essentially what allowed us to get them to commit to the regular snaking, and that was thanks to Abigail and Cooper hooking us up with that free legal service. Yeah, I guess I'm trying to kind of think of everything, but yeah, the walls are still crumbling, and they're just not responding to us about fixing them.
Thank you, that's very helpful. And Abigail, this question for you, are these, everybody here online today, active cases right now with Cooper Square, or a bit of a mix?
I think Abby's case is ongoing. It sounds like the East Village Vintage Collective they still have things that they would like to get from their landlord. I think a couple of them that are waiting are in the past landlords. Because also it's difficult to get commercial tenants to speak publicly about this because of the complete lack of accountability and enforcement. They're afraid that if they don't, that they just have to deal with it. Like Dee said, just has to eat it. It's a cost. The landlord's not going to do anything. How could I possibly share this publicly? So thank you to those of you who are talking about your current situations. That's very brave.
Yeah, thank you. It's very good for us to hear. And I think we have 2 more people.
Yeah, now there's 3, but let's put it in order.
Ayola?
Hi, hello.
Yes, we
Hello.
can hear you.
Hi, how you doing? Yeah, I spoke with Abigail earlier, and I was sharing, some of my story. And I guess just to touch on what the last commercial tenant said, I do own a coffee shop, and I think when you go through these kind of problems with your landlord, if you feel embarrassed. So you tend to not want to share what you're going through. You're usually taken advantage of, and your first thought is, well, you're told, well, that's your problem. That's what my experience was. I signed a lease to open up my coffee shop back in September of 2024, and from day one it was just multiple problems that I had with the landlord. I'm still like so upset about it. I went through periods from day one. I never got to open my store because it was just months of problems. I paid a 3-month security deposit, which was a total of, over $10,000 a month. Plus I was paying rent. I spent money hiring a contractor to fix the space because the landlord refused to fix the space. The space was just in shambles. There were holes in the wall. There was no water initially when I rented the space, and the landlord kept saying that, no, no worries, I'll do everything you need to run your business. And though that was not true. There were times where I had no water. Even on the weekends when a coffee shop is busy, I couldn't open my store. I lost revenue there. There were periods where I had no electricity. The electricity would trip, and it would be 3-4 days that I submit requests online to through the tunnel portal, and the super ignores you, the property management ignores you, and you're just kind of told, well, that's your problem. We don't have to provide those things. So as a commercial tenant, you're paying thousands of dollars and my coffee shop was located in the Lower East Side. You're paying thousands of dollars a month in rent, but yet you're told, well, that's your problem. You know, I don't have to provide. I had no heat. It was the middle of December. There was no heat. I felt bad even having customers come in there and there was no heat, there was no hot water. I had problems obtaining my food and beverage permit from the city health department because I had no hot water or any heat. The space was pretty much inhabitable. The landlord is very nasty. The property management is very nasty. When you complain, it just falls on deaf ears. Or when I told them that I had to get out of the lease, I decided to get out of the lease. I broke the lease in February, just a month ago, because after 6 months in the lease and constant problems, constant electrical problems, constant water problems, I couldn't make any money. So I pretty much I lost at this point, I lost about $30,000 in 6 months in a lease that was just it was just a bad lease. I think the space was illegal that I was rented, and it's just a horrible experience. And you do feel embarrassed, like, to share this with anybody, with friends and family. I was embarrassed. I went into a depression. This was money that I saved. It took me years to save this money to open up my business, and this was the first commercial lease that I ever signed. And now I feel just discouraged, pretty much. I don't have money to look for another space because I invested all my money into this space, and I'm pretty much, just left with nothing. And commercial tenants are we are unprotected. You sign these leases and there's no protection. They tell you, well, we're not supposed to provide you with those things, but how can we run a business when we don't have a habitable space? Thank you.
No, thank you for sharing. And then maybe if this isn't too specific of a question, is the cases that Cooper Square works in these instances, like dealing directly with, I don't know, is it like litigation at that point, or what exactly is Cooper Square doing to be able to help tenants where they've already broken the lease, for example?
Well, we're getting into sort of like the gaps in what the commercial lease assistance program provides. I mean, I think it is, like I said, a really incredible resource, but it doesn't handle litigation. So if it reaches that point, then the commercial tenant is kind of on their own, and we don't have a lot of resources to help them with.
Yes. So is the situation like if you're in a residence, HPD will help you? But there is no HPD equivalent for commercial, is that the case?
Exactly. There is no HPD, there's no agency enforcement of this statute.
So there is no, basically, there's just no one. What about are you from SBS? I'm sorry, I came in late. So my favorite person in the world is Bernadette Nathan still there?
She is, I was working with her on 2 cases earlier today, so we're still in contact.
Is there any, I know she deals with emergency situations. Does she deal with these issues at all?
So when it comes to situations like this, we typically tend to connect folks to local attorneys. Again, it depends specifically on a case by case basis. I don't recall any of the case. I work in the InterGov team, so I don't recall any of the cases that have been sent specifically to me where I wasn't able to connect someone in a situation where landlord has obviously been not doing the proper job, and it's been to the point where CLA couldn't help them out. A local attorney, we usually, for folks in this neighborhood, the cadence would usually be to connect them to the Lower Manhattan BSC, which is located on 14 Wall Street, the 17th floor.
Do they have to pay for that?
No. And they're open standard business hours 9 to 5 p.m. or 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And folks can come in as a walk-in visit. And I can also, I believe I sent information on BSCs to you guys, or Jesse did. But if that's not the case, I could also send a couple of PDFs on the business solution centers. And if a business again needs that kind of assistance, they can also feel free to reach out to me, and I would be more than glad to facilitate that contact.
So there's a lot of help, there's a lot of referrals, but they're kind of on their own because there's no enforcement.
Well, we're not an enforcement agency,
Yeah,
so I
but it's
can't,
not, you're not, but there is no one, I mean, it's, no one else in the city is either.
I can't speak for the other agencies and what they do.
It's just trying to define the situation.
I understand.
I think you defined it perfectly, which is that there is no enforcement on this particular issue. So yeah, how, if you're in a residential apartment and you have a problem, HPD will come out and inspect and issue violations and eventually fines. But there is no such process for commercial tenants. There might be two more people waiting to speak, and then we can close with a few next steps.
Yeah, do you wanna do iPads first and then the.
iPad, if you'd like to unmute yourself and share your name.
Are they allowed to talk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's where you're muted.
Yeah, tell
iPad, if
them.
you're speaking, we're not able to hear you, just so you know.
You have to unmute yourself. They're not muted. Oh, they're not muted.
Maybe we can bring in the next person while iPad figures out any audio issues. And can I also ask any members of the public to sign in?
I brought him from the bar.
Oh.
I
You
announced
skipped it
this
because,
meeting at the bar meeting, I got us there.
What those you
And Dee, is your hand raised to add any other comments or?
Yeah, sorry, I realized I did actually, I just wanted to like formally introduce myself. My name is Dee and I'm the owner of La Fleur Cafe. We're located on East 9th Street between A and First. So that's all,
Thank you.
sorry. Thanks.
Nope, no worries, thank you. And Janet, is there anybody else with an iPad or was that it?
No, that's it. So just waiting for.
Yeah, iPad, if you could unmute yourself again and we can try one more time. You're still muted.
Hello,
Yes, we can hear you now.
do you hear me? This is Rosa
Yes, we
Malmet.
can hear you.
Yeah, this is Rosa Malmet, the owner of a Gizmo Sewing Supply located at this moment at 626 East 14th Street between Avenue B and C. But my problem was my old location and I was there for almost 34 years. And we had so many flood in the store and the landlord never ever took care of us, especially the last month that we were leaving. We had a 2 or 3 flood and even they didn't give us access to the insurance company. They go to check the roof. So, and then I didn't know Abigail at the time. And I had to hire a lawyer and the lawyer take care of that my problem with the landlord, what I had, but not with the flood. And then for a flood, when I called the insurance company, they said, throw away everything and give us a inventory. So when I sent them an inventory, they asked me so many questions that I didn't know what to do. And I asked my lawyer, she said, no, don't respond to them. Send everything all listed to me and I take care of it. Now, since last February till today, I didn't hear anything. So many times I sent the email to my lawyer. She ignored me, and I think I had to pay so much money for the sewing machine that it was ruined by the flood, to the owners of the sewing machine that they brought to me for a repair, and I lost so much merchandise. So I lost almost $20,000. I didn't hear anything from the landlord or from my lawyer. And this is one thing that really I'm very upset about the landlord. And the other thing I want to say, thank you so much to Abigail that she reached out to us. Otherwise, if she wouldn't come to the store, I didn't know such a organization exists and they can help me. But with their organization, they helped me. I find the new location. I don't have too much foot traffic, but I'm very happy. So far, my landlord is very good, I would say. I don't have too much heat because the the store is located under the co-op building, and I think they have an automatic radiator. But I managed it. I managed it so far, but I'm so upset that I don't have money. I borrow money from the people to pay the my customers, and all this merchandise that I lost, I had to replace it for a new location. This I want to say, if any help I can get, at least. Oh, and I called my insurance company. They didn't want to talk to me at all because I had a lawyer, they said. And my lawyer, I think, is not to her benefit. She ignoring me. I don't know what to do.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you to everyone else who shared this evening. Abigail, in the interest of time, I know you have some cutoffs, so we can continue the.
Yeah, I also want to thank everyone who joined. I know for a fact some of you were calling from work. And small business owners, I think you're all probably part of this committee because you value small businesses in the neighborhood. You know how they make a big, busy place like the Lower East Side East Village feel like home. And they work super hard. And they deal with enforcement from agencies all the time, from sanitation, from Department of Health, you name it. They have one tiny little law that is supposed to protect them, and there is no enforcement about it. And that's not fair. So all we're asking is to, thank you for your time and for your attention on this issue, but for you to pass a resolution, at least in this community board level and this committee, to say that the city needs to step it up. They need to assign an agency to enforce this law. And they need to do a better job protecting these small businesses because they work really hard for us and they make our neighborhood a livable, safe, healthy community that it is.
From my memory, there were two things about commercial, especially Lower East Side. One was commercial rent control. And the other one was to establish a similar court that mimics where people could do show causes and the city would have inspectors come out and deal with commercial. No, the real estate lobby killed that portion of it. It was submitted many times, those two items, and the real estate lobby fought against it, and of course, they spread money around, so it never came up. Even the most.
Herman, Abigail has a hard cutoff, so if you have a question, you can ask her, but.
No,
There's no question.
it's just that I have to do this.
Okay, Susan.
Is that you need more organizing and the rest of us have to support you in terms of what you're asking us to do, because it has been here before. Just need some more fight, I guess.
Susan?
So I'm sorry, this is probably because I came in late, but you said there's one little piece of enforcement that doesn't really work, but what is that piece and what agency is that?
I don't think there is no enforcement. So maybe we can look at the last slide. Yeah, okay, so I guess just to sort of summarize that it was important to establish the legal statute, but there was the enforcement piece that you have to affirmatively sue your landlord to exercise that does not work clearly, because none of the tenants who talked today have been able to affirmatively sue their landlord, and only 30 cases have been brought to New York State Supreme Court since the law was enacted in 2016. So no, there's really no enforcement.
Don't have is, I want to complain to the city because I'm not getting heat. I want to complain to the city because there's construction and my building is blocked. Yeah. So you need an agency that enforces, do they have to also create a statute of laws that must be enforced? Would that be
No,
part
the
of it?
statute exists.
The statute exists, and that's a city statute?
Yeah, it's in the administrative code.
Okay, I was just trying to fully understand. I don't know, if, do you guys want to pass a resolution tonight, or I don't know what you're planning?
I thought today was more of a informational presentation, but I know we have a skeleton from other community boards that have passed similar resolutions, so we can have a look at that tonight. And if we think that it has to have a lot of edits or something, maybe in the next meeting we can pass it. But we can have a look at it tonight if everybody's okay with that.
So you can do that. Another option that they use, sometimes like in parks when they have presentations, but they don't have a resolution ready, is you guys could vote on bullet points that you want to include in a resolution and then write it up between the committee and the board, or do it another month, like you mentioned. Those are just all your options.
Okay. And then I guess I don't know if the committee has any questions for Abigail right now. Or is there any in the Q&A maybe? In the meantime, what is your idea of the best way that this enforcement should take place? Is it through HPD? Is it allowing 311 calls? Like, is there a specific agency that Cooper Square believes would be best to handle these sorts of complaints, or more broadly, just asking city council or others to address this gap?
Yeah, we're working with a city councilor to draft some legislation, but the specific agency to be assigned isn't something that we are particularly, we don't have like a clear demand on that.
So the resolution that'd be most helpful for you is just in support of this legislation that's being worked on currently. Is that correct? Okay.
Just to clarify, what's included in the legislation that's being drafted?
Yeah, so we don't have the actual draft as yet, but the whole idea around this is basically just the enforcement mechanism, right? Creating a system, at least for an agency, if we had to choose, it'll probably be around, like, I was saying, SBS or the Department of Buildings.
So it's assigning an agency who's going to be in charge of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically,
Okay.
and basically just an enforcement, basically, it'll be a place where tenants can say, hey, my landlord is not doing repairs, right? Identifying those type of repairs, even if they're somewhat limiting in regards to them having housing with a certain value, right? Yeah, and basically just to leave out where the issue with the commercial anti-harassment law is up to the tenant to prove that it's harassment. Then they'll have to go to actual court, right? And that could be like years of litigation. Where if there was an actual law and an agency that took care of this, it'll be like 1, 2, 3, but actually, no, this is wrong, this is what the law says. This needs to be fixed within a certain time, and if they don't, then the landlord will be fine.
So, I don't think that's, that really, a lot of that would fall under DOB. They don't do like the heat and that kind of stuff, or even like blocking the construction blocking, that's not what DOB does.
Well, I think since nothing like this exists and we don't know where, we were talking about this, if let's say if they were to, we're just saying with the Department of Buildings, because they do handle structural permits and things of that nature. And if it was them, it basically, let's just say, it would have to be like something new that would have to be created. Or if city council were to come up with something where they can include this with HPD.
Because the people with the expertise are at HPD, but then that's housing.
That's
DOB
housing, so
does not have those kind of
yeah,
inspectors.
so I think, so basically that was our proposal to city council, and basically the plan would be to work with them and try to figure out like how and where this would work. So
I would suggest that for the committee, that if you want to vote that an agency should be designated, that you say an agency should be designated and not say what agency. Let that be their problem.
yeah.
The reason I ask this question is because I'm a property manager also, okay? I manage buildings with commercial storefronts and things. Some of the things that happens in those storefronts are not because I need to harass anybody. The fact is that it's just things that just happen.
Stop sharing.
But there is the thing about that I witness is that landlords will figure out that their storefront that they just rented or stuff, it's worth more if they get the existing tenants out. And so that's where the harassment comes in, because they have an alternative motive. They want to get more money for this space. And I know that because, like I said, I manage commercial spaces. And some things that's happened from tenants upstairs is just maybe the tenant's carelessness to overflow things. But the response is the problem. The landlord does not respond to do the repairs, or they ignore the person, or. But the ultimate stuff is to get them out so they could get more money for this space. It happens in residential buildings that I work with too. So you mimic the thing about it, like I said, there's no enforcement factor. HPD doesn't enforce that unless you violate a city code or something. EDC is a separate, different organization that deals with housing, and
They don't enforce.
and Department of Buildings will send an inspector. Even if the situation is in the commercial storefront and exists in the residential, they only go to the residential.
So I think to Susan's point, maybe not assigning it a specific agency at this point would make more sense, and just leave it open-ended that there should be someone assigned.
An agency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I have just one additional question before I know you have to leave. Of the services that are being offered by Cooper Square and others, is the ones around tenant harassment the ones that are utilized the most, or is it pretty evenly spread, or what is like your caseload looking like?
I don't have concrete like breakdowns to share tonight. I can look and get back to you. if
Yeah,
that's
just
of
out of
interest.
curiosity.
I would say landlord lease issues, not necessarily harassment, but lease reviews, lease amendments, those kinds of things are pretty common for
Okay.
us, just because we are a tenant rights organization.
Okay, thank you guys. I don't think there are any questions online, but if anybody does, now's your chance to raise your Zoom hand and ask. Otherwise, we really appreciate your time this evening and everyone who joined online. I think amongst the committee members here, we can maybe decide to vote on specific bullet points, and next time we may have something more written out in terms of a resolution and support that we can vote on and discuss, hopefully with a couple more members in attendance.
So you want to do the bullet points now?
Yeah, we can do the bullet points, but in terms of everybody in the Zoom call, feel free to drop off if you'd like, and thank you all for joining today.
But you can also stay.
Yeah, you feel free to stay. Feel free to
Please stay also,
Yes.
it's a
Yes.
public meeting.
Yes, feel free to stay. Thank you.
But is it, are we also free to?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you're free to stay, you're free to go. Thank you
Yeah,
guys.
but we'll certainly be in touch with you to review the information. So do you think you want a meeting next month? Is that what you're planning, or in 2
Yeah, I
months
think
or
we
so?
should discuss bullet points, maybe later, I can also just share what other community boards have passed and support, and based on what that looks like, if you feel like there's a lot we wanna change, or if we need to discuss more, we can meet maybe next month.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to let people know what to expect,
Yeah.
because next month,
Yeah.
probably.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for
So we'll
attending.
watch the calendar when it's posted for April.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you guys.
thanks, Susan.
Thank you.
Bye.
I'm glad you came. I
No,
brought
no, I
one person
appreciate
with, I brought one person with me.
Twice in one day, that's a treat. Thanks, Susan.
Not everyone thinks so.
Sign that first.
Do what?
Any other boards pass or?
I think Board 8 did, and I remember looking at it, I don't, is that it?
Wow, we have a one pager.
Chair.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. Very nice. Thank you very much. Thank you for the time, for your engagement.
Everyone knows that she brought her copies.
Susan.
Thank you very much for coming.
I'm so sorry, y'all.
And please tell
Thank you.
Bernadette.
You're
She's
Oh, yeah.
seriously one of my favorite people in the whole world.
I'll give my regards. He is one of the hardest working people. I want to be like her when we get back, when I get older.
When you grow up.
Anyways, Susan,
Okay.
that's fine.
Thank you very much for coming, and we'll be in touch with any questions or, you know, anything like that.
Of course.
Okay, thanks.
Self 100 about.
Sure. That would be
So
great.
Susan, is there a way that we could share it on that laptop, the resolution that was passed by?
Where is it?
I know you emailed it to me, but I don't know if you have your email connected.
I don't even know what this is. So. So I don't think we have any of the emails on here. Should we change it? It's just a computer usually take forever.
What is the email server? Is it on?
I'm
Outlook
looking,
or-
I'm looking for the NYC.gov email. It's pretty turbo background, isn't it?
Can you search it?
What?
Can you search for it? Or-
Um, Not gonna be theirs. It's, you said, I'm sorry, it was emailed to you?
Yes, you emailed it to me through your district manager email, but if worst case scenario, I can read it out. It's just a bit.
I was gonna say, if you email it back to me, I can print it out, copies
Oh,
for everyone.
perfect. Okay, let me forward
Maybe
it.
that would be the easiest thing.
Just forwarded it back to you. Let me know if you got it. Yep. So I think just in terms of broad bullet points that are worth including, obviously it's assigning a city agency to be enforcing it, highlighting that. I think Susan, you said we're one of the ones with the highest amount of tenant harassment. From what Cooper Square has shared.
Yeah, I can, start by describing, what's happening in our community and the stats from our community.
I guess my question would be, since there's no like formal collection, where did Cooper Square get that we were one of the highest?
It's actually, I don't know,
Is it from the commercial lease assistance program? that we-
no, I think it was from a city council hearing,
Okay,
so. I'm trying to think, did we send you the city council hearing, or did Abigail just print it out?
I don't think I received that. Just
Here we
the,
go.
oh, this pamphlet?
This,
Oh,
no, this one.
so I think getting all that information together definitely makes sense for us to pass this next month in that case. So then, I know Susan, you're gonna print this out, but I think we'll just vote on.
Hasn't come through yet. Sorry.
Oh, no worries, let me just double check.
Let's see, New York commercial tenants generally have fewer statutory protection than residential tenants. But they still have rights, including the right to be free from harassment and discrimination and to receive services as outlined in the lease. Right to occupy, right to services.
Yeah, at stetzer@cb.nyc.gov.
Yeah,
Let me try
I
again.
didn't get it on my phone either.
I just tried again, so maybe it'll work this time.
Yeah, my email should be auto fill for you. Watch it. There we go.
So right now, we're gonna write out bullet points or?
Yeah, we're just gonna come up with a couple bullet points of what we for sure wanna see. She's just gonna share a copy of what CB8 passed, and then next month we'll reconvene to actually pass a resolution. Cause I don't think it's worthwhile for us to sit here and try to draft it from scratch today, yeah. Okay, so the three that I have that I think are the most important is highlighting CB3 as one of the highest tenant harassment, having one of the highest tenant harassment rates across the city. The second is that there's currently no city agency that's tasked with enforcing commercial tenant rights. And then the third would be to advocate for a collection of data related to
I
commercial
thought it
tenant
was all
harassment.
5 pages, it's a tiny little thing.
Yeah, it's just like,
I gotta say, not very respectful.
okay,
I think that's why I never did it.
yeah. Thank you. Can you repeat this that you just read us? Yeah, that's just me right now brainstorming the bullet points we want to approve for today's meeting. The first would be to highlight CB3 as having one of the highest tenant harassment rates in the city. The second would be to advocate for a city agency to be tasked with enforcing commercial tenant rights. And the third would be to collect data related to tenant harassment, either through 311 or some other.
We want the city to collect.
Exactly,
The
yes,
city.
yes. Along with whatever agency I assume is responsible for enforcing it, yeah. And then this what's printed is what CB8 passed, so.
I
Yeah,
I think it's,
I mean, that
I
sounds
think
good
you
to
can
me.
forget it.
The bullets you have sound. Great.
Yeah, if anything, we can just use this as a.
Maybe put in whereas SBS offers services and referrals to businesses, they do not have any enforcement power.
Services and referrals.
If I'm.
How about the litigate, like, no, there's no, um.
I do think it would be useful to add a whereas there is no commercial equivalent to HPD. Just to clarify for anyone wondering, like, this does exist for residential.
Yeah, that's good. I think where you have, whereas HPD enforces for housing,
But
there's
not
no equivalent for
Yeah,
for businesses. And maybe have a, whereas many businesses resort to lawyers. They're on their own without any city support or, city
Infrastructure.
enforcement. Yeah.
And maybe just a point about how litigation is not the best avenue to address these issues.
yeah, where litigation is incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
And
Well, but they said some of it was free, but still,
Well, they said no to litigation, that they'll offer services, but that they won't offer. If
you
you're,
said they have pro bono lawyers they refer to.
but the lawyers, if you're in a lawsuit, can't assist you, it's just like advisory. They said, yeah,
Yeah.
once it's in litigation, they can't help, and I think Abigail mentioned that as a gap right now in the services offered in the commercial lease
I would
assistance.
specify, I would put that.
Okay. So like city, commercial lease assistance.
Because people don't know any of this stuff.
yeah, whereas the only pro bono help offered by the city is it purely advisory. I also think one of the ones that they have for CB8, whereas the city has no mechanism to enforce compliance with the anti-commercial tenant harassment is a worthwhile one to take on.
From the one that's already listed.
Yeah, the third one.
Whereas the city has no mechanism to enforce compliance, is that the one you
Yeah.
said? Okay, perfect. So Susan, would it make more sense for this to just be part of our like meeting minutes for today, but as the baseline for?
Yeah. You
Yeah,
can keep that.
okay. Do we need a vote on it then, if it's just like our discussion minutes? No.
No, you're not, because you're not voting on a resolution. I know, I've been spinning here. No? Maybe it's just not on here.
I think it would let you open it, right? It just wanted you to
I-
Outlook right there.
Yeah, well, I put in my password and I put in my password and everything and it just kept saying loading. Oh, weird. I've never used this for email. This is what I use to, oh no, this is the minutes one.
Maybe the web, the web for Outlook.
Yeah, no, it should, I usually just have an icon on.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bullet points. I'll read them out and then I'll include them in the minutes, and then if anybody has any suggestions between now and April, I'll draft a resolution, and if not, we can discuss it then.
Sure.
Yep, so the ones I have are whereas CB3 has one of the highest tenant harassment rates across the city, whereas the city has no mechanism to enforce compliance with anti-commercial tenant harassment. Whereas there's.
Why is it anti-commercial?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was
Is that a
thinking.
typo?
I don't know, I'm gonna remove that, right, cause it doesn't
Yeah,
make
let's
sense.
just remove it.
So I'm rereading that one. Whereas the city has no mechanism to enforce compliance with the commercial tenant harassment. Whereas there is no city agency collecting data related to commercial tenant harassment. Whereas while SBS offers services and referrals, they do not have any enforcement powers. Whereas there is no commercial equivalent to HPD. Whereas many businesses resort to lawyers, litigation can be costly and lengthy. Whereas the pro bono commercial lease assistance program is purely advisory and does not include litigation services.
Seems good.
Anything else?
Good stuff.
Nope.
And I think if we could send a link around for that city council hearing, I think you'll probably get some good facts or
Yeah,
data.
yeah, that'd be helpful just to get it, to beef up what we write in. Okay, perfect. Then I think that's it for today, unless anybody online or here has anything else to say.
Somebody's still here.
Nobody's online.
Nobody.
Okay,
Or,
perfect. Oh,
yes, we have one person.
weird, they're not sure. Huh. But no questions or hands
No
raised, right?
question.
Okay. Okay, then I think we can do roll call. Oh, one last question, Susan, do we need to do goals for a subcommittee the way the other committees are doing? No, okay, perfect. Okay, great, so Ariadna present, Megan absent, Takesha absent, Herman
Herman, present.
present, Anna present, Nancy
Present.
and then Richard, Diego and Andrew absent. Okay, great, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So let me end the meeting. Okay, just sort of FYI, Richard's not reapplying,
Okay,
so I wouldn't count on him doing that.
did I remove him already or is it not yet?
I wouldn't, you
Yeah,
know,
okay.
but we'll see. April might be his last.
What's his last name? Well, yeah.